the song of hope and fire. Moros, the primordial deity of doom, loved his work. From his unseen perch in the cosmos, he would whisper to mortals, revealing the painful truths of their impending fates. He relished in their gasps of despair, the sudden, paralyzing fear that would seize them as they learned of their unavoidable deaths, their broken hearts, or their greatest failures. It was a beautiful, exquisite symphony of despair, and Moros was its conductor. But his music came to a screeching halt with the arrival of two meddlers, the titan Prometheus and the goddess Elpus, a radiant deity of hope. Appalled by Moros' cruelty, Elpus turned to Prometheus. "We must help them," she urged. "They are not meant for this kind of despair." Elpus, with her power to instill blind hope, and Prometheus, with his gift of fire, worked together to shield humanity from Moros' cruel revelations. Their combined efforts ignited a new fire in mortal hearts, allowing them to look to the future not with dread, but with a fierce, unyielding resilience. Enraged by this defiance, Moros desired to know more about this rebellious duo. He opened his prophetic eyes and saw a future that shook Moros to his very core. Moros saw a glimpse where, if left unchecked, the blossoming love between Prometheus and Elpus would grow so powerful that it'll completely eclipse both his doom and presence for all eternity. In a desperate bid to prevent this, Moros journeyed to Mount Olympus. He found Zeus and, in a voice like a sibilant whisper, poisoned the god king's mind. He spun a tale of betrayal, framing Prometheus not merely as a thief of fire but as a conspirator who, with Elpus, had dared to change the natural order of existence. Moros stood before Zeus saying, "Look at what they have done. They have given mortals fire, yes, but they have also taken their sight. They have stolen the true nature of their existence. And now humanity is a puppet of the Titan's will." Zeus, whose ego is already bruised by Prometheus's actions, listens as Moros continues. "Prometheus has not only defied you, but he has cursed humanity. He has given them hope without knowledge, fire without wisdom. This is not a gift, my lord. It is a slow, agonizing death. I will show you." Moros shows Zeus a vision of humanity, now living in blissful ignorance, their lives full of meaningless toil and strife. Zeus, who had seen humanity as a mere toy, now sees them as a challenge. He cannot let this stand. And so, Moros' whispers take root, twisting Zeus's anger toward Prometheus and Elpus. The king of the gods, already furious at Prometheus for his defiance, now has a new, more sinister reason to punish him. Not just for the sake of fire, but for the sake of humanity. Moros painted a future where humanity, armed with hope and fire, would grow so audacious that they would eventually challenge the gods themselves. His words found fertile ground in Zeus's bruised ego. The king of the gods had planned a lighter sentence for Prometheus, but Moros' fear-mongering took hold. He convinced Zeus that a simple punishment would not do. For this crime, Prometheus must be eternally separated from Elpus, his light and his hope. And so, with chains forged by Hephaestus, Zeus bound the Titan. The metal links burned Prometheus's divine flesh as he pleaded, "Please, let me see Elpus one last time." Zeus, his mind clouded by Moros' lies, refused. Before Prometheus was cast from Olympus, Moros appeared. He taunted the Titan, reveling in his pain. "Those chains are a great fit for you," he sneered. "And don't you worry, I'll be a frequent visitor to your dear Elpus, to keep her updated on your current status." The air around Elpus, once filled with the gentle, humming energy of hope, grew cold and still. The subtle, quiet place she chose to reside was suddenly invaded by a profound absence of light and warmth. She was in her sacred space, continuing to pour her spirit of hope into humanity, a gift that pulsed from her core like a living heartbeat. But that heartbeat had been thrumming with a low, anxious rhythm for weeks, then months, and now years. She had sent her champion, Prometheus, to Zeus's summons, trusting he would return. But he hadn't. She often whispered his name into the wind, a soft, desperate question. "What's become of Prometheus?" She'd ask the empty air, her hope beginning to fray at the edges. It was in this moment of vulnerability that Moros finally appeared. One moment the space was empty, the next he simply was. His form was as dark as a starless night, and a chill seeped from him that was more than just cold. It was a deep, existential dread that made the very air feel heavy. Elpus gasped, her shock evident. She had never seen such a powerful, ancient being of the underworld on the surface world before. The ground beneath his feet seemed to shrivel, and the light around him appeared to bend and die. This was no ordinary visitor. This was a force of pure, concentrated despair, and she knew in her heart that his presence here could only mean one thing. Her worst fears had come true. "Who are you? What do you want?" Elpus demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "No one from your realm has ever dared to set foot here." A cold smile, devoid of all warmth, spread across Moros's face. "I am Moros, and I am here to deliver a message from your beloved Prometheus." He took a step closer, the air around him growing heavier with each stride. "He asked me to find you, to tell you he's sorry." But his smile widened. "I think you already know why he's sorry." Elpus flinched at the malice in his voice. "Sorry for what? What have you done to him? What did Zeus do?" Moros let out a low, chilling laugh. "Don't you see? It wasn't Zeus who condemned him. It was you, and your precious hope." Elpus recoiled as if struck. "That's a lie. I only wanted to help humanity, to give them something to believe in." "Believe in what?" Moros countered, his voice dripping with condescension. "A foolish lie. You filled them with blind hope, a cruel delusion that will only lead them to ruin. You know what they saw before you and Prometheus intervened? They saw the truth. They saw their fate. They lived with the knowledge of their own demise, and they were better off for it." He gestured to her, his gaze filled with dark amusement. "But you, my dear Elpus, you had to change everything. You had to meddle. You put the idea in Prometheus's head, the one about hope being a gift, and now look at what happened to him." Moros leaned in, his voice a low, insidious whisper. "Zeus wasn't going to punish him so harshly, you know. He was going to give him a simple warning, a brief moment of exile. But then Zeus learned about you. He learned about your meddling with fate, and he saw that you were the true threat. He saw that you and your hope were the ones who had to be stopped." Moros straightened, his form seeming to grow taller and darker. "So he chained Prometheus not just as a punishment for a crime, but to keep him away from you, to keep the two of you separated for all eternity." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Perhaps, my dear Elpus, you should have stayed in Pandora's box. At least then, you would have been of some use." "I can't give in," Elpus declared to herself, her voice a fierce whisper that seemed to echo through the cold, dead space that Moros's presence created. She met his gaze, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Prometheus will return to me. I know he will, no matter what you say. Our light is not so easily extinguished." Moros's laughter was a dry, rasping sound, like the shuffling of bones. "Don't shoot the messenger, little goddess. Aren't you glad you're getting some closure on Prometheus' absence? I'm really doing you a favor." He spread his hands, a cruel parody of generosity. "You can finally let go and stop hoping for a day that will never come, because Prometheus is never coming back. So you can just accept his fate now. He has, and so should you." Elpus stood her ground, her body radiating a faint, warm light that fought against the encroaching darkness. "He has not accepted his fate. He is a titan, and he will never give in to the chains that bind him. And neither will I." She took a step closer to Moros, her voice growing stronger. "You may have bound his body, but you cannot bind his spirit, and you will never touch mine. My hope is not blind. It is a promise that one day he will be free, and we will be together again. You cannot corrupt me with your lies and your despair." "No, but I've definitely wounded your heart," Moros taunted, a cruel smirk on his face. "You speak bold, defiant words, but your heart tells a different story. Let me say, the sorrow a goddess emits from within gives off quite a beautiful aroma." To my senses, it's practically a sweet perfume. In fact, it smells far sweeter than the aroma mankind's despair has ever given me. I'll take my leave for tonight, but before I do, I feel a personal congratulations is in order. A shiver of profound unease ran down Elpus's spine. Disturbed, she asked, "Congratulations for what?" Moros's smile widened, revealing a set of sharp, predatory teeth. "Because you've become my new prey. I've tasted the exquisite sorrow of your hope, and I find it far more delicious than the despair of mortals. I will return, and I will be a constant presence in your life until I fill you with the bitter taste of doom." With a final, maniacal laugh that seemed to echo through her very soul, Moros dissolved into a chilling gust of wind, leaving Elpus alone in the suffocating silence. The defiant light that had blazed within her flickered and died. The full weight of his words, of her helplessness, and of Prometheus's unending suffering crashed down upon her. She sank to her knees, the pain in her heart a physical ache, and wept. Her tears, once the source of humanity's resilience, now flowed freely for the first time, a silent testament to the grief that had finally broken through her spirit. Since then, Moros had become a frequent visitor of Elpus, once every new moon to constantly plant seeds of doom, despair and guilt at both her and Prometheus' hopeless situation. However, Elpus remained lasered focused and continued pouring her spirit of hope within the hearts of humanity. Then, when Moros' whispers weren't enough to damage Elpus, he used his dark powers to plague Elpus with nightmares in her sleep every full moon of Prometheus's perpetual torment, trapped in burning chains, as an eagle constantly tears through his flesh to eat out his liver. Not even Elpus's waking hours were safe. Moros enlisted the Erinyes to constantly cast blame and shame upon Elpus for Prometheus-bound imprisonment. This was nothing short of a living hell that almost broke Elpus. She was narrowly close to letting doom consume her entirely, until swarms of blind hopes continued to refuel Elpus' strength. With each blind hope that appeared before her, Elpus saw personal testimonies of how hope aided humanity, from farmers who fed their families through famines or wounded soldiers refusing to give up during war, and many others. In each of these men carrying hope, Elpus saw a glimpse of Prometheus in each of them as constant reminders that never allowed her to quit. As the blind hopes within humanity continued to refuel Elpus, Moros started to see the futility in his endeavors to discourage her and decided to leave once more. Prometheus was still bound and completely separated from Elpus. Eons passed. Moros, satisfied with his victory, forgot about the lovers, his attention consumed by new forms of despair. This long period of indifference became his greatest oversight. In his absence, a new hero emerged, Heracles. He was tasked by Zeus to free the bound Titan. Heracles, with a single powerful arrow, slew the eagle that feasted on Prometheus's liver and broke the chains that had held him for millennia. Prometheus, finally free, thanked the hero and set off to find Elpus. At that very moment, a colossal shift echoed through the cosmos. Moros, who had been orchestrating a great cataclysm on a distant world, felt his form and powers begin to wane. He recoiled, his essence shrinking, his strength draining away like a tide. He looked down at his fading hands, his heart filled with a terrible, dawning dread. The cosmic balance was shifting, and he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his core, that it was Elpus and Prometheus's reunion that was causing it. He screamed a torrent of foul curses at Heracles, the mortal who had so casually undone his life's work. Rage fueled him, and he vowed to deal with Heracles personally after he had first dealt with the lovers, Prometheus and Elpus. The game of hope and despair was not over. It had only just begun. In her sanctum, Elpus sensed him. A wave of pure, unadulterated hope surged through her, and in a moment of pure euphoria, she dropped her protective barrier. Moros, in desperation, had to act fast, feeling his power wane. He instantly knew they had to be stopped. In a rage, he rallied his legions of underworld monsters and warped Elpus's location to the peak of a high cliff. He formed a prison of black glass around her just as Prometheus arrived. "Flee, Titan," Moros roared. Let hope be extinguished and mankind return back to doom's reign. But Prometheus was not alone. Behind him, a massive battalion of men, armed with weapons blessed by his fire and imbued with Elpus's hope, stood ready for war. They mowed down Moros' legions with ease. Seeing his army decimated, Moros, in a final act of desperation, transformed into a giant serpent, its fangs dripping with a venom that could kill a god. Moros knew deep down that this was his final chance to destroy both Prometheus and Elpus, once and for all. In his mind, this was the perfect setup. What better way to destroy Elpus completely than for her to personally witness her lover's death right before her eyes? Elpus's distant voice cried a warning, but it was unnecessary. Prometheus, with a sword of blazing fire and the radiant light of hope, charged the serpent. With a swift strike, he decapitated the beast, vanquishing Moros' physical form. Prometheus immediately shattered Elpus's glass prison. Moros' spectral form rose from the serpent's remains, but before he could utter a curse, a dreaded sight appeared before him, the very same he had seen eons ago. He saw the lovers standing hand in hand. Their direct unity after eons of isolation and long suffering finally made direct contact with each other. The sheer amount of radiant light, hope and love was not only able to extinguish Moros' essence. No, their light affected the very cosmos themselves. This single act of profound connection was a bond so powerful that it shattered Moros' essence. He screeched in agony as his spectral form was consumed by the light, his existence erased in a flash of divine power. The remnants of Moros' army, with their master gone, fled back to the depths of the underworld. On the battlefield, all the human warriors rejoiced as both the divine lovers embraced. It had been an eternity since Elpus had been wrapped in the gentle strength of Prometheus's arms. The tears she had suppressed for so long, tears of grief and longing, now flowed freely, but they were tears of pure joy. "My love," she choked out, her voice raw with emotion. I thought I would never see you again." Prometheus held her tight, his cheek resting against the top of her head. "I am here," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I am finally here." He pulled back slightly, his gaze soft and adoring. "Elpus," he said, "I endured the chains, the solitude, and the eagle that ate my liver daily, all so I could see you again. It was all worth it. Every moment of torment was worth it. I went through it all only to be freed by Heracles." He took her hand, his thumb gently caressing her skin. "This ring," he said, gesturing to the piece of his eternal torment, the iron from his chains, now an eternal reminder of his love. "This ring is the symbol of my love for you, a love that has endured all the suffering in the cosmos, only to come back to you." Elpus's tears flowed even faster as she realized that his suffering had given her a ready-made wedding ring, a piece of his torment, now a testament to their unending love. It was at this moment that she knew that their love was truly a force that no god could ever hope to break. Then, all of creation was touched by their combined hope and light, signifying the dawn of a new era, the song of hope and fire. The symphony of doom and despair was forever eclipsed. Both gods and mortals alike could no longer see, hear, or feel the presence of doom, as all celebrated life to the fullest, filled with the fire of hope and the light of endless possibilities.